Okay, so the breath. The breath is an amazing object and tool to use for our mindfulness practice because our breath is very portable, right? It goes with us wherever we go, right? It's ever present, right? Day and night we breathe. We might not be aware that we are breathing, but it's a physiological function that keeps our body alive, that keeps us alive. So it's an amazing object to use. Now, when you are using a breath, because the breathing is happening on its own accord, right? When you're focusing on the breath, when you're breathing in, that's what is actually happening. We are actually breathing in. We are not imagining it or we are not visualizing, right? It's not about the past or the future. The in breath is in the present moment. The out breath is in the present moment. So it acts as an anchor. And within the domain of mindfulness practice, again, I'll come to this point repeatedly. The fact that our when we breathe, it has an experience in our body, right? So basically, either our belly uh, rises when we breathe in and recedes. When we breathe out, we also have sensations in our, in our near our nostrils in this area when you're breathing in and breathing out. So, and then of course our rib cage kind of expands, right? Our diaphragm goes down. So there are a number of physiological processes that happen in our body. So you have to choose any one of them to help with the breathing with the breathing practice. The breath by itself, the air going into the nostrils and coming out of the mouth of the nostrils, that does not provide an anchor. There is no solidity. The solidity rises in our either belly or the nostril or in any other part of the body. So it's very important to know that that breath is an embodied experience. And whenever we talk about mindfulness of breath, we are talking about mindfulness of breath as it is occurring in the body. Okay. And the breath is an equanimous constant, right? If we are having a very good time, if you are happy and joyful, we keep on breathing. If we are if you are sad, if you're upset, if you're frustrated, angry, we still keep on breathing. So breath can be an equanimous constant through the ups and downs of our daily life. In fact, one advantage of mindfulness of the breath practice is that it helps us stabilize our own selves, right? If you're really angry with something, if you're really upset with something that has happened to you in the past, if you come back to the breath, right? Just focusing on the breath. Let's say you're focusing on the belly, moving in, um, receding and falling, rising and falling. You have very skillfully diverted your attention from whatever is going on, in your head to what is happening in the body in the present moment. So from that perspective, it can be an equanimous constant that we can use in our day-to-day life. So are there any questions on these points before I move on to the next slide?
Oh, this is Kara. I don't have questions, but I love this explanation.
Okay, thank you. All
I
right.
agree with Kara.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Anna. Thank you, Kara. All right. Now, there is there are these advantages of repeatedly returning to the breath. And there's going to be a little bit of repetition on this point. Okay, so bear with me. When we start this practice, right? When we breathe in, we focus on the breath, moving into the belly, right? Lifting it, and then the belly falling after each out breath, falling on each out breath. Can you tell me what happens if you are paying attention for a few minutes? Any idea what will happen if you try this practice for, like, let's say just 3 minutes? Any guess? Okay, the answer is that our minds will wander off. Okay, focusing on the breath. The breath is a very boring object. It's a very neutral object. For most of us, when we focus on the breath itself does not create any proliferation. You don't, we typically we don't get excited about the in breath. We don't get excited about the out breath, right? It's a very neutral and very boring object. And that is one of the reasons why breath is so important. Because when we are focusing on the breath and we realize that our minds have wandered off, when we realize that our minds are not focused on the breath, that is mindfulness. So we bring our attention back to the breath. And sometimes it may happen multiple times. It may happen 50, 100 times. You are doing this meditation for like 15 minutes, and you'll find that you are repeatedly bringing your attention back to the breath. And the advantage of doing this practice of repeatedly coming back to the breath is that we strengthen our inherent powers of concentration. So mindfulness practice is powered by our innate power of concentration, right? the more the more skillful we are in concentrating on any particular topic, just the raw power of concentration, right? The more skilled we are, the more continuous we will be able to have this experience of breath. All right. So that is a very, very good advantage of repeatedly coming back to the breath. And I will assure you that if you do this just simple mindfulness of breath practice every day for the next, let's say, 30 days, right? You won't have the same experience in any 2 days. Every day, your experience will be different. Like for example, on some days, it might be easy for you to come back to the breath. For some days, it might be easy for you to stay with the breath for a longer period of time. Other times, it'll be extremely difficult for you to focus on just one in breath or just one out breath. You see, because in our bodies, in our minds, we have different experiences every day. A lot of we undergo a lot of changes on any given day. So the state of our minds can be very, very different on any given day. And that will actually dictate how this practice plays out in your life. So the idea is, remember the definition of this gentle effort, right? So during days when you're not able to concentrate, when you find yourself being distracted, it's perfectly fine. It's perfectly okay. It's best not to judge yourself. But when you realize that your mind has wandered off, gently bring it back to the breath. So that is a very crucial advantage of repeatedly returning our attention back to the breath whenever our minds have wandered off. Now, mindfulness of breathing practice leads to stability of mind. Um, and it happens as a direct result of slowing down of thoughts. And by thoughts, I also mean thoughts and emotions and any other mind states that we are experiencing. Okay, so let's take this scenario. Okay, let's say that I'm upset at my neighbor. Okay, let's say my neighbor, has a beautiful tree in the backyard, and he just wants to cut it down. Right now, that'll upset me because why do you need to cut down a tree? It's so old, right? Now, if I am thinking of that event all the time. The more I think, the more stuff will be generated in my mind, right? I'll experience more anger, more resentment, right? More frustration and stress. And I won't be able to do anything about that situation. I mean, this situation is beyond my control, right? But the more I brood on it, the more I think about it, the more I will stress myself out. All right. But in that moment, if I come back to my breath, right? If I focus on my belly, for example, right, as it rises with in breath and falls with the out breath, right? Now, what I've done is I have skillfully diverted my attention away from this proliferation and into something that is very solid and something that is very much in the present moment. So, when if I do this for a few minutes, even though I might get distracted from time to time, it will lead to some degree of stability in my mind. And this is something that you can try out, in your life, right? If you are encountering a situation, let's say you are stressed about something, right? If you come back to the breath, stay with the breath for a few minutes, and you'll realize that you will feel a little better, because in the default state of mind, every time we stress, we worry, or we anxious about something, we are losing our energies actually. All these emotions take energy, they expend energy, right? But if you are able to somehow slow down these thoughts and these emotions, what happens is that we actually conserve energy. And so in just a few minutes time, you will feel slightly better. So this is a very, very skillful practice that you can apply anytime. Instead of reacting to something and instead of creating something big, we can skillfully divert our attention so that we don't get roiled up, so that we stay stable and calm and composed. So that's an amazing advantage of this mindfulness of breath practice, that doing this practice alone can lead to some stability of mind. And the again, the ability to remain focused on the breath acts like an antidote to mental distraction and unnecessary mental activity. And I'll come to this point a bit later in the next slide. Um, Most of us, or not most of us, but there are a lot of us, right? We work a lot. If we have stressful lives, for example, when we come home, right, and when we go from the evening to night, we can't just switch our minds off. Our minds stay active, and then it affects our sleep, right? So there is one technique that I'm going to mention during this presentation. If you are unable to sleep because of racing thoughts in your mind, at that time, if you bring your mind to the breath and the body, what you will find is that your body will relax, your mind will relax, your body will relax, and a relaxed body will lead to a calm mind. Calm mind will lead to a more relaxed body, and then pretty soon you'll just glide into sleep. All right, so this is the best antidote, the best medicine for insomnia or any form of sleep disorders, as long as those disorders are caused by excessive mental activity. All right. So, and I'll come to this point a bit later in this presentation, but I just want to introduce this point right now. It's one of the many benefits that you can get from doing this practice. And if you got a chance to take a look at the reference articles that I posted on the team site, you will know more. They talk about different benefits that accrue to us health benefits by just focusing on the breath. And mindfulness of breath, or just focusing on the breath, let's remove the word mindfulness. Just focusing on the breath itself is a very crucial element in any stress management practice. So for example, and I think I talked about this in our first session, that when paramedics arrive to treat a trauma patient or trauma victim, right, the first thing they tell the victim is breathe. Breathe, because when you consciously breathe, it brings some degree of stability to the mind and body. With mindfulness domain, it has taken this into a whole new dimension. This whole practice has become very, very profound. Okay. And I talked about this. I kind of went ahead of myself, but for sleep disorders, mindfulness of breath can be a very therapeutic practice, and it can yield a lot of benefits. Now, pain management. Pain management is also another area where mindfulness of breathing can help us. Um, Now, I don't have any experience with chronic pain, touch wood, but for people who suffer from chronic pain, when they do this practice, right, they are able to find that they are able to get relief from their pain. And I will elaborate on this topic in our next session, mindfulness of body, where I elaborate this into a little bit more detail. But for now, just know that mindfulness of breath has therapeutic benefits for sleep disorders and pain management. So any questions on these points before I move on to the next slide?
Al, I have no questions, but what you're telling me is I can't fail no matter how I do this.
You can't fail. In a way, that's right, Kara. In a way, that's right. Because what we are doing here is we are skillfully redirecting our attention to something that's happening in the present moment, right? Now, let's say when we are caught up in a cycle of unpleasant reactions, okay, let's say anger, let's say uh, resentment, something happened to us yesterday, right, and we think about it. The more we think, the more stressed we'll get, because our thoughts will create emotions will create some judgment will create another set of thoughts. So we go into this endless cycle where we end up suffering more and more and more. But at that crucial moment, if we turn our attention away to something that's happening in the present moment, right, then that whole uh, activity, the secondary layer of suffering that I talked about, right, that ends, and you are dealing with just what is happening right now at the moment. So in a way, Kara, I feel that yes, no matter how you try, you won't fail, because here the objective is not to pass or fail. The objective is to get better, you know, get better in degrees. Does it make sense, Kara?
It does, and the object is just to be at that moment, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Be at the moment again in a gentle way, in a way in which you are kind to yourself, um, in a way that you are non-judgmental. You don't judge anything that comes up. You just redirect your attention. So when you couple this process of redirecting attention along with gentleness and kindness and self-love and self-care, right, that's when this magic happens. So in that sense, you can't fail. And you only have to have a couple of experiences, right? You try this out, And once you're able to experience this for yourself, you will know, you will have this realization that, this works. But that's a great question, Kara. Any other questions from anyone? Yeah, I love thinking of the breath as an anchor. Yeah, thank you, Hillary. Okay, all right. So we'll talk about mindfulness and concentration. All right. So, I mentioned the fact that um, the activity of staying focused with the breath is powered by our underlying raw power of concentration. So within this broad domain of mindfulness practice, there are practices that allow us to increase our power of concentration. Okay, so I have a diagram to show you. Um, all right, so within this domain, we talk about whole body breath, long breath, and short breath. Okay, so this is the anatomy of breath. Okay, so if you can see my cursor, right? We inhale, right? This is inhalation, inhalation. We go to this point. This is the point where our lungs are full. The moment our lungs are full, we start to exhale, right? Now, at this point, when our lungs are empty, there is a space. There is a space where nothing happens. And then we start to inhale again. All right. So in this cycle, this point where we inhale, get our lungs filled, right? And then immediately when we start to exhale, this is called the short breath. Okay. Now again, this is not a clinical term. It's a term that you know uh, practitioners and teachers have kind of come up with. Okay. This is called short breath. Then when you exhale, right, and after our lungs are empty and there's this gap is called the long breath. Okay. So so if we start with the cycle, inhalation, short breath, exhalation, long breath, inhalation, exhalation, right? And uh, just ignore these numbers for now. But do you see this point, inhalation, exhalation? Uh, it's a very simple depiction of the breath, but the breath itself has been broken down into different components. And it's important to understand that these components have specific use. Okay, any questions on this diagram? Do you have any questions, or is this clear to you?
It's clear to me, but the question I want to know is between the end of the exhalation and the beginning of the inhalation,
Yeah.
the long breath, is there a time that
Oh,
you,
I'm sorry. Yeah, okay. Is there a
is there a
time?
time span between that, or do you just go breathe, exhale?
Right. No, 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 no. That's a great question, Philip. So here's the thing. This is breath uh, unmodified. This is not breath that we modify. This is the natural breath. Okay. Let's say resting breath. All right. If we are resting, right, uh, this is this is going to be the pattern. Now, the 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 gap between the long breath uh, will change all the time. All right. Let's say you have finished a lot of activity, heavy physical activity, right? And then you sit. Your breath is going to be faster. Your breath is going to be rapid. And so the long breath duration is going to be somewhat shorter. Okay. And then if you're sitting for 5-10 minutes and then you start to rest and all the fatigue wears off the body, then you'll find that your long breath actually increases. Your breathing becomes more slower. It might get more deeper, right? So the at this point in time, just know that short breath is going to be instant, long breath might be somewhat longer duration, and that duration will change during the time of the day, during whatever activity you are engaged in at any point in time. So did I answer your question, Philip? So
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah. I just was maybe a little confused, but I think I've got it now. Yeah.
okay, yeah. So just know that long breath is that small period of time where nothing happens. We breathe out, our lungs are empty, but we don't breathe in immediately. There's a gap, and then we start the inhalation. Okay. And now remember, I told you about sleep disorders, right? Here's the beauty. Okay. And this is part of the physiological process. This is how our bodies are designed. When we inhale, we take in energy. Okay. We energize our bodies, right? And then when we exhale, we relax our body. Exhalations promote relaxation in the body. All right. Now, this is the body's natural function, right? But because our minds are all over the place, we don't really consciously feel the energized body and the relaxed body. Okay. Because our minds are all over the place, we don't see this change that is happening in our bodies at all points during all times, right? So here's the beauty of it. When you are focused on mindfulness of breath, if you focus just on inhalation till short breath, right? So inhale. So if you're just focusing on inhalation, you are looking at the breath from the left hand side. It's only inhale, 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 right? You're not focusing on the exhale. Inhale, 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 inhale. And if you do that, and if you develop some practice, you will consciously energize yourself. All right. And if you become skilled at it, right? If if during the course of the day you are tired, you might need just a few minutes to be with yourself. Just focus on the inhalation part of the breath cycle, and you will end up energizing yourself. Now, it's not like that 5 hour energy uh, thing that you take. It's not that drastic, but you will feel a sense of energy coming back into you. Uh, and that happens because now we are making an effort into focusing on this part of the breath inhalation. Sometimes efforting itself can create energy. All right. But now you are making a gentle effort to be with the breath, and this process of energizing the body, you are amplifying it simply because you are observing it. When you observe something, right? When you observe this inhalation, you are actually amplifying the uh, the action of the body. You are amplifying the result of the body. So does that make sense? So you focus on the breath, the inhalation cycle, inhalation, short breath, right? Inhalation, short breath, inhalation, short breath. You do it repeatedly and you will energize yourself. It might need a little bit of practice, but you will see that it makes a difference. All right. Now, on the flip side, if you focus on the exhalation, right? You exhalation, long breath, exhalation, long breath, exhalation, long breath. If you focus on that part of the breath, you will consciously relax your body. You will amplify the relaxation response in the body. And again, you'll have to get used to that pattern of observation. But when you do so, right, I'm telling you, it's going to help you a lot. Okay. So on my website, right, I have a guided meditation called Calming the Breath and the Body. All right. And the premise is very simple. In my guided meditation, I guide listeners to focus on a particular part of the body when they exhale. Okay. So, I'll see something like on an exhalation, focus on, the forehead, for example, right? And so when you are exhaling up to this long breath, you focus on the forehead. And then next exhalation cycle, do that for a few cycles, and then I move on to the next part of the body, right? And so on my website, that guided meditation is the most popular, amongst, the small set of users who frequent my website on a regular basis, and they tell me that has helped them sleep. It helps them sleep better. Or sometimes when people get up in the middle of the night, and if they're not able to go back to sleep again because of racing mind, racing thoughts, etc., right? When they do this guided meditation, they're able to relax the mind, relax the body, and they're able to go off into sleep. So this is a hack, in some ways, that has come out through this practice of mindfulness of breath. And it's something that you can try out, tonight if you want, right? On an exhalation, right? Focus on the exhaling breath up to the long breath, right? And you'll see that your body relaxes. Conversely, during the day, if you focus on this part of the breath, inhalation, short breath, you'll find that you are energizing yourself. All right. Any questions on this?
I have a question.
Yes.
Just because as I'm looking at the chart, so I see where it starts, where it says 1 to 1, it says long breath. Does that the long breath mean that's what we're doing, a long breath on the inhalation? Is that what that means? I mean, I might be being too literal, Al.
Oh my God, that's a great question. Thank you, thank you. Yeah, no, no, take the long breath along with the exhalation, okay?
Okay.
Yeah. So exhalation, long breath, because your body will relax up to this point. When you look at the physiological process of the breath, right? This do you see my mouse? Are you able to see my mouse where I'm hovering right now?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So okay, when you start from here, right? Inhalation, this is where you'll energize your body, right? And then when you start exhalation, this will relax your body up to this point, and
Okay.
then energizing, and then relaxing up to this point.
Okay.
So yeah, long breath should be part of exhalation, instead of inhalation. Okay, it should be part of exhalation.
Okay. Thanks.
Right. And again, again, this is a disclaimer. Okay, these are not clinical terms. Okay, these are terms that mindfulness meditation teachers have come up with, right, to properly describe the dynamics of the breath. And you don't have to believe me, you just have to try this out, and see if it works for you or not. It might not work for you the first time you try, right? You have to still get used to the rhythm of the breath, but once you get used to the rhythm of your own breath, then you will see that it will work.
Okay. Thank you.
Welcome. Any other questions? All right. Thank you. So now, remember this slide was all about concentration. Okay. So these are now let's focus on the numbers. Okay. 1-1 or 11121314. Okay. Within the broad practices of mindfulness meditation, there are techniques that are used by people to develop their inherent power of concentration. All right. So now look at these are long breaths that are numbered. Okay. And again, not just long breath, but exhalation and long breath, right? So if you can do this pattern, okay, this is a concentration exercise. All right. So exhalation, long breath, 1-1. Start with 1-1, 1-2, 1-3, 1-4, 1-5, and then go in this sequence. Okay. If you are able to go from 1-1 to 1-10, 2-2 to 2-10, etc., until 10-10, that's quite an achievement. Because mind you, you are taking into account each and every exhalation cycle. Okay. Exhale, 1-1. Exhale, 1-2. Exhale, 1-3. Do you see what I'm saying? And again, you don't have to say it out loud. Just in your mind, repeat these numbers 1-1, 1-2, 1-3, 1-4 for each exhalation long breath cycle. And if you do, this is like a measure. I mean, it's a relative measure, but chances are that somewhere along the way, your attention will get distracted. You will forget the count, or you'll forget to count. And then if that happens, then you have to start back from 1 1. So again, try this out, see how far you get. This whole cycle might take anywhere between 3 to 5 minutes. And the crucial point is this, okay? You have to relax, okay? You don't have to alter your breath. You shouldn't change your breath in any way. Just go with the resting breath. All right. So what happens is when you start this exercise, right? 1 1 1 2 1 3 1 4 might happen quickly, but then by the time you get to 5 5, a relatively speaking long period will pass between 5 5 and 5 6 because now you are rested. Okay. So it's like 1 1 1 2 1 3, and then by the time you get to 5 5, it's like 5 5 5 6 5 7. Do you see what I'm saying? So the time interval between these counts will increase, and that will provide a little bit of difficulty because now you have to stay focused for a longer period of time. So this is one of the many, many different exercises that are in the popular literature, at least from the traditional perspective, So check this out and see how it goes. All right. And then maybe when we meet next session, right, you can tell us how it went for you. All right. And it might take you anywhere between 3 to 5 minutes to finish this whole cycle. Okay. Awesome. I like that. Thumbs up. Great. All right. Love it. Okay. Any questions? Any questions on this exercise?
Al,
Yes.
does it make any difference if you breathe through your mouth or your nose?
Mouth. No, it doesn't make a difference. No, it shouldn't.
Okay.
It shouldn't make a difference. No. I had to pause because, when I do these practices, I breathe through the nose. I mean, that's my preference, but I'm imagining that if so you're breathing in through the nose and breathing out to the mouth, Callie, is that what your question is? Is that what you're envisioning?
That's what I have done in the past on occasion. Yes.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't think that should matter because the exhalation cycle will still stay the same whether you are exhaling through the nose or through the mouth.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
you should be fine. Okay, so that's all. Now we'll do a guided mindfulness of breath practice. And again, this is the same practice that we did in the first session. Okay, but now we are going to keep some points in mind, some key points in mind as we do this practice, right? The first thing is we will focus on just one breath at a time, right? We are doing this practice for 15 minutes. Don't worry about 15 minutes. Just focus on one breath at a time. When Navy SEALs, when they train, right, when they train themselves to run for like 20 miles, carrying like 100 pounds of weight on their shoulders, right? They don't think about that distance. They don't think about 50 miles or 20 miles or something. They just focus on 1 mile at a time, or maybe even like 100 yards at a time. So you just go from here to 100 yards, then focus on another 100 yards, and then 100 yards, and pretty soon you have traversed the entire distance, right? So in this case, when you're doing mindfulness of breath meditation, just focus on one breath at a time. All right. And then you'll go through the entire period of 15 minutes. Don't let 15 minutes be uh, don't let that 15 minutes cause you any anxiety. At this point in time, it's just one breath at a time. Relaxation, right? So relax yourself. It's important to do this practice uh, when you are relaxed. All right. If you are anxious and if you are nervous or if you are stressed, then you are getting in the way of your own practice. So try to be as relaxed as possible when you do this practice. Excuse me. And then another very, very crucial point, right? Focus on the embodied experience of breath. Don't focus on just the air coming in through the nostril, going out through the nose or through the mouth, whatever. Focus on how your body experiences the breath, each in breath, each out breath, right? So that is very important, embodied experience of breath. And then we'll use the guided meditation. So again, just like last time, it runs for 15 minutes. I give some instructions for starting out. And then there'll be blocks of silence of about 3 minutes each. So I think there are 3 blocks at least. And then I come in with a gentle reminder, and then we'll do this for 15 minutes. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. I'll share, bear with me. Okay, I'll share my screen again with sound turned on. Okay, all right, so let's do this practice now. 78. Okay.
Welcome to the Mindfulness of Breath meditation. Take a moment to let your body settle in a comfortable position. Relax the whole body. Keep the head, neck, and back erect but not rigid. Keep the hands comfortably placed on the lap or on the knees if sitting. Keep the hands on the sides if lying down. Intentionally cultivate an attitude of patience, gentleness, and kindness towards yourself. Allow your eyes to gently close and tune in to the feeling of the breath flowing in and out of the body. Focus your attention on the sensation of the breath moving past the nostrils or on the sensation of the breath moving into the belly, lifting it during each in-breath and receding gently on each out-breath. Follow the breath as it comes in and goes out. Allow yourself to just dwell here moment to moment. Each time you notice your mind has wandered off, gently bring it back to the breath. Choose as best as you can not to judge or to get carried away by the stories of your thoughts, fantasies, and emotions. Gently let go and return back to the breath. Follow the breath as it comes in and goes out. Each time you notice your mind has wandered off, gently bring it back to the breath. Choose as best as you can not to judge or to get carried away by the stories of your thoughts, fantasies, and emotions. Gently let go and return back to the breath. Follow the breath as it comes in and goes out. Each time you notice your mind has wandered off, gently bring it back to the breath. Choose as best as you can not to judge or to get carried away by the stories of your thoughts, fantasies, and emotions. Gently let go and return back to the breath. We now come to an end of this meditation. Please stay centered for a few moments to dedicate the merits of this practice. May I be happy. May I be peaceful. May I live with ease. May all beings be happy. May all beings be peaceful. May all beings live with ease.
Hi, welcome back, everyone. So, anyone would like to share how the guided practice went for you?
It was very relaxing.
Okay, good.
I almost fell asleep. Yeah.
Yes,
Me
yes,
too.
yes. Okay, and I'm not sure if I got a chance to address this point in the first session or not, but within the domain of mindfulness practice, falling asleep is an occupational hazard. Okay, um, and the reason is this, and it's widespread. Okay, because when we have fatigue in our bodies, when we are tired, we still continue to work, right? Mindfulness is all about letting go, right? It's about self-care, self-love, right? So when you let go, right, then that fatigue arises and pretty soon you get tired. Um, so yeah, it's pretty natural. And again, no judgments. That's what your body wanted. You are giving the body the permission to, to rest, basically. And we can't give our bodies enough rest, considering the fact that what we put through our bodies on a day-to-day basis, so yeah, so if you sit down to meditate, and if you're falling asleep, it might be a good idea to stop the practice, go to sleep, take a nap, and then come back out and do the practice again. Anybody else? Any other? So here's my question. We did this mindfulness of breath session twice. We did this once. We did this once last week. So was this experience any different from the previous week's experience?
Al, this is Kara. This week I was more aware when I wasn't focused on my breathing.
Oh, okay, great. Okay, perfect. Awesome. So you already getting a feel for this practice, right? You're getting a feel uh, uh, for this practice, that yes, you are aware of the breath, and now you're not aware of the breath, you're coming back. So yeah, that's the practice actually. So thank you, Kara. Michelle, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I was just gonna. I agree with Kara. I felt like I was more aware this time throughout the whole meditation, and that, like, I think that concentration exercise really helped. Though I was only able to get like to 3-5, I think, and then I had to start over. I think I had to start over like 7 times, but at least I was more aware of it, and it did keep me more present.
Oh gosh. Okay, so you were practicing the concentration exercise during the guided practice?
Yeah, I just 'cause, like,
Oh,
it's so easy for me when you stop talking during the guided meditation. It's so easy. I'll just trail off and fall asleep.
oh, that's funny. Okay, good. You reached up to 3.5. That's great. And pretty soon you'll find that you are able to go all the way up to 10.10. And then if you're very ambitious, try try 15.15. That's when
Let's
it
not
gets.
get ahead of ourselves, Al.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, like the Navy SEAL rule, right? Just focus on one breath at a time. Okay, one breath at a time. Awesome. All right. So, do you have any questions on any of the material I covered today? Okay, great. Now remember, during your practice, right? If you have any questions, if those questions come up, feel free to shoot me an email, and then I will, I'll either reply back, or if the question is important enough, I might talk about it in our session, while keeping the questioner anonymous. All right. Okay. Homework, right? 15 minutes twice a week till we meet next week. Oh, 3 times. Sorry, 3 times. Um, and I'll end recording now.